Sarah Chen wiped sweat from her forehead as she crouched behind a metal barrier. The training arena buzzed with energy weapons firing all around her. Red laser beams cut through the air above her head. She gripped her plasma rifle tighter, but the weapon felt wrong in her hands. The rifle was too light, too smooth. It was built for alien hands, not human ones. Sarah's fingers barely reached the trigger properly. Every time she tried to aim, the weapon wobbled. She had missed every target for the past 10 minutes. "Move up, Chen," Instructor Vex shouted from the observation deck. His voice echoed through the arena speakers. "Your squad needs covering fire." Sarah looked ahead. Her teammates were pinned down behind scattered cover. Zeknor, the big turtle-like Corvin, fired steady bursts from his heavy weapon. Sela danced between barriers, her 4 arms letting her use 2 pistols at once. But their human teammate Jake was stuck in the open, his rifle jammed. The worst part was Kex Thor. The young Zalarian had charged too far ahead. His blue skin was pale with fear as enemy drones circled his position. His backup weapon lay just out of reach, where he had dropped it. "I can't get a clean shot," Sarah muttered. Her rifle's targeting system kept flashing red error messages. The alien technology just did not work right with human biology. Their eyes were different. Their reflexes were different. Everything was different. A drone swooped down toward Kex Thor. The Zalarian tried to roll away, but he was not fast enough. In the simulation, getting hit meant failing the exercise. For Kex Thor, it might mean losing his place at the academy. Sarah made a choice. She dropped her useless rifle and sprinted across the open space. Laser bolts sizzled past her ears. She dove and slid the last few feet, grabbing Kex Thor's fallen sidearm as she rolled behind his cover. "What are you doing?" Kex Thor gasped. "That weapon is not rated for cadets. It requires level 7 clearance." Sarah did not listen. Her fingers wrapped around the grip of the disruptor pistol. It felt solid, real, like it belonged in her hand. The moment her skin touched the metal, something changed. Every scanner in the arena went silent. Then the alarm started. Red lights flashed everywhere. Sirens wailed so loud that Sarah had to cover her ears. The simulation froze instantly. All the drones stopped moving and dropped to the floor with metallic clanks. Above the chaos, a mechanical voice spoke in perfect galactic standard. "Unclassified. Apex detected. Emergency lockdown initiated. All personnel maintain position." Sarah stared at the weapon in her hands. It looked normal. Just a simple pistol with a silver grip and blue energy core. But the arena's main display screen was flashing words that made no sense. Unclassified Apex. Threat level. Unknown. Genetic markers. Incompatible with database. Heavy doors slammed shut around the arena. Emergency force fields activated, trapping everyone inside. Sarah could see her fellow cadets staring at her through their helmet visors. Fear. Confusion. Questions she could not answer. "Chen," Instructor Vex's voice cut through the alarms. "Put the weapon down immediately." Sarah looked down at the pistol. It still felt right in her hands. Too right, like she had been born to hold it. But everyone was afraid. Everyone was looking at her like she had become something dangerous. She set the weapon on the ground and stepped back. Security teams rushed into the arena within seconds. They wore full battle armor and carried weapons Sarah had never seen before. One of them carefully picked up the pistol with special tools, like it might explode at any moment. "Cadet Chen," the team leader said. His voice was calm but firm. "What did I do wrong?" Sarah asked. Her hands shook slightly. "I was just trying to help my teammate. You activated a weapon that should be impossible for your species to use," the team leader replied. "The arena scanners detected genetic markers that do not exist in our databases. We need to figure out how that happened." As they escorted Sarah from the arena, she caught sight of Director Vashte in the observation deck. The old Altarian's normally calm expression was replaced by something Sarah had never seen before. Worry. Real worry. Other Academy staff rushed around the observation deck, checking computers and talking in urgent whispers. Through the glass, Sarah could see them pointing at readouts and shaking their heads in disbelief. "The weapon scan is impossible," she heard Dr. Yellis say as they passed below. "No known species registers as an unclassified apex. The system has not triggered this alert in over 300 years. "Then explain what happened," Director Vashte replied. "Explain how a human cadet activated a weapon locked to genetic markers we do not have in our database." Sarah did not understand what any of it meant. She was just trying to help a friend. She had picked up a weapon, and suddenly everyone was acting like she had broken some cosmic law. But as they walked through the academy corridors toward the security wing, Sarah noticed something strange. Her reflection in the metal walls looked different. Her eyes seemed brighter somehow, more focused, like something inside her had woken up for the first time. Behind them, the arena remained locked down. Teams of specialists were already on their way from the capital world. Word was spreading through the academy that something unprecedented had happened, something that might change everything they thought they knew about humans and their place in the galaxy. Sarah did not know it yet, but grabbing that weapon had started something that could not be stopped, something that would make the entire galaxy question what it meant to be human. The emergency meeting room buzzed with tension. Director Vashte sat at the head of a long table, her purple Altarian skin darker than usual, with stress. Around her, department heads from across the academy argued in hushed voices. "It has to be a system malfunction," Dr. Yellis insisted. His tentacles waved nervously as he spoke. "The classification scanners are old. Maybe they glitched." "The scanners were updated last month," replied Chief Engineer Mora. "I ran diagnostics myself. Every system is working perfectly." Director Vashte raised her hand for silence. "Show me the data again." The room's holographic display activated. Security footage showed Sarah grabbing the weapon, then a flood of red warning texts. But the most disturbing part was the genetic analysis. When Sarah touched the pistol, the scanner had detected biological markers that matched no known species in the galactic database. "Unclassified apex," Vashte read aloud. "The system has not used that designation since the Titan Wars. Before any of us were born." A chill ran through the room. Everyone knew about the Titan Wars, even if only from history classes. 300 years ago, beings of incredible power had fought across the galaxy. When the war ended, the Titans had simply vanished. Most people assumed they had destroyed themselves. "We need the human expert," Vashte decided. "Get Dr. Okafor in here immediately." Dr. Remy Okafor arrived 20 minutes later, her dark hair messy from being woken up. As the only human professor at the academy, she was used to being called in when human cadets caused problems. But this was different. "You want me to explain how Sarah triggered a Tangent-era alert?" Remy asked after reviewing the data. "That should be impossible. Humans have been part of the galactic community for 50 years. We know our genetic profile." R. "Apparently we do not," Vashte replied. The weapon she picked up was not just any sidearm. It was a prototype based on recovered Titan technology. The security locks should prevent any modern species from using it. Remy stared at the genetic readout. The DNA markers the scanner had detected were unlike anything in human medical records. "Where is Sarah now?" "Quarantined in Medical Wing C," Chief Yellis answered. "We have been running tests for the past 4 hours." "What kind of tests?" Remy's voice sharpened with concern. "Standard biological scans. Neural activity monitoring. Genetic sampling." Yellis paused. "The results are unusual." The display shifted to show Sarah's medical data. Her brain waves showed patterns that doctors had never seen before. Complex neural networks that seemed to activate and deactivate in ways that made no scientific sense. This is impossible, Remy whispered. Human brains do not work like this. These patterns look almost like quantum processing systems. There is more, Yellis continued. Her muscle tissue is adapting in real time. Density changes. Flexibility improvements. Her reflexes have increased by 30% since we started monitoring. Director Vashte stood up slowly. What are you telling me? That touching one weapon changed her biology? Not changed, Dr. Okafor said quietly, studying the data more carefully. Activated. Like something that was already there, just woke up. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. The implications were staggering. If humans carried dormant genetic traits that connected them to the Titans, it could change everything about galactic politics. We need to contact the High Council, someone suggested. Not yet, Vashte said firmly. First, we need answers. Dr. Okafor, I want you to dig through every piece of human historical data we have. Look for anything that might explain this. What about Sarah? She stays in quarantine until we understand what we are dealing with. But in Medical Wing C, Sarah was discovering that quarantine could not contain what was happening to her. She sat on the edge of an examination table, staring at her hands. They looked normal, but they felt different. Stronger. More aware. The monitoring equipment around her kept beeping in strange patterns. Every few minutes, something would spark or flicker when she got frustrated. The medical staff pretended not to notice, but Sarah saw their nervous glances. Miss Chen, Dr. Kelani said as she entered the room. The Vaxian doctor's scales shifted to a calming blue color. How are you feeling? Quote, different, Sarah answered honestly. Like something is humming under my skin. And I keep seeing things. What kind of things? Flashes, images, places I have never been. Sarah closed her eyes and tried to describe what she saw. Big ships in space. Worlds covered in crystal towers. People who look human, but feel more. Dr. Kalani made notes on her tablet, but Sarah could see her hands shaking slightly. These could be stress reactions. The mind sometimes creates vivid images when dealing with trauma. This is not trauma, Sarah said firmly. She opened her eyes, and for just a moment, they seemed to glow with inner light. This is remembering. Meanwhile, Dr. Okafor worked frantically in the Academy archives. She pulled up every document about human history, from their first contact with galactic society to their integration into the wider community. Most of it was routine. But there were gaps, pieces that never quite made sense. Humans had developed faster than expected. Their technology had advanced in leaps that seemed to skip normal research phases. And their homeworld, Earth, had geological features that did not match standard planetary formation models. Then she found something that made her blood run cold. Deep in the classified archives was a report from the original survey team that had made first contact with Earth. They had found ruins, ancient structures buried under ice and ocean that were clearly not human-made. The survey team had recommended further investigation. But the report was marked sealed by High Council order. The ruins had been found in the same locations where human civilization had first developed. And the architectural style in the survey photos looked familiar. Very familiar. It looked like Titan construction. Remy stared at the classified images on her screen. The implications were terrifying. If humans had evolved on a world with Titan ruins, if they had been influenced by that technology for thousands of years. Her communication device chimed. Emergency priority message from Medical Wing C. Dr. Okafor, Dr. Kilani's voice was tight with panic. You need to get down here immediately. Sarah is doing something we cannot explain. And the entire medical bay is responding to her presence. Remy ran through the corridors toward Medical Wing C. As she got closer, she could see lights flickering in patterns that seemed almost like a language. Equipment was humming in harmony, as if every machine in the wing was suddenly connected to a single source. When she reached Sarah's room, she found the young cadet sitting in the center of a circle of activated technology. Scanners, monitors, even simple lights were all pulsing in rhythm with her breathing. Sarah looked up at Remy with eyes that held knowledge far older than her 19 years. "Dr. Okafor," she said in a voice that carried harmonics no human throat should produce. "I think we need to talk about where humans really come from." Dr. Remy Okafor spent 3 sleepless days digging through the deepest archives in the Galactic database. What she found changed everything she thought she knew about her own species. The evidence was hidden in fragments, scattered across classified reports and sealed survey data. But when she put the pieces together, the picture was impossible to ignore. Earth was not humanity's birth world. It was their crash site. "Director Vashte," Remy said as she entered the emergency meeting room. "We need to evacuate Sarah from the academy immediately." "Evacuate?" Vashte looked up from a stack of reports. "Why?" "Because she is not just waking up, she is broadcasting." Remy activated the room's holographic display. Every piece of Titan technology in a 50-kilometer radius is responding to her presence. The display showed a map of the local star system. Red dots marked locations where ancient artifacts and ruins were suddenly showing activity for the first time in centuries. All of them were pointing toward the academy. "The Council survey teams found Titan ruins on Earth 50 years ago," Remy continued. "The reports were classified, but I found backup copies. Earth is not a natural human world. It is where a Titan colony ship crashed millions of years ago." Chief Engineer Mora leaned forward. "You are saying humans are descended from Titans?" "Not exactly. The genetic locks suggest humans were created by Titans as a failsafe, a backup population with dormant abilities, designed to activate only in extreme circumstances." Director Vashte stood slowly. "What kind of extreme circumstances?" "The return of whatever destroyed the original Titan civilization." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. If humanity carried dormant Titan genetics, and those genetics were awakening now, it might mean something terrible was coming. In Medical Wing C, Sarah was no longer just a confused cadet. She sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by floating holographic displays that had activated themselves. Her eyes were closed, but she was clearly seeing something the medical staff could not. "The memory banks are opening," she said without moving her lips. Her voice came from the room's speakers instead. "I can see the Great War. The enemy that came from between the stars." Dr. Kalani backed toward the door. "Sarah, you need to stay calm." "I am calm," Sarah replied, opening eyes that now glowed with soft blue light. "For the first time in my life, I understand what I am, what we all are." The holographic displays around her showed images that made no sense. Massive ships fighting in the space between galaxies, creatures made of dark energy consuming entire solar systems, and everywhere, beings that looked human but moved with impossible grace and power. "The Titans did not disappear," Sarah continued. "They scattered. They hid their children across the galaxy and locked away their memories. But the locks are breaking now, because the enemy is returning." Outside the medical wing, emergency teams worked frantically to contain the spreading technological awakening. Every computer system in the academy was connecting itself to an invisible network centered on Sarah's location. "Director, Communications," Officer Zex called out. "I am receiving signals from Earth. Massive energy readings from under the major population centers." "What kind of energy?" "Tangent class. The same signatures we detected when Sarah touched the weapon." On the main display, they watched as readings poured in from across human space. New York, London, Tokyo, Cairo, Lagos, Mumbai. Every major human city was showing massive energy spikes from underground complexes that should not exist. "It is happening everywhere humans live," Dr. Okafor said grimly. Sarah was just the trigger. Her awakening, is activating the entire network. Director Vashte made a decision that would change galactic history. Open a channel to the High Council. Emergency session. Tell them we have a code black situation. Within hours, representatives from every major galactic power were rushing toward the Academy. The Corvin fleet sent 3 battleships. The Vaxian Empire dispatched their best xenobiologists. Even the mysterious ethereal collective broke their usual isolation to send observers. But the most worried were the Zalarian High Command. Their intelligence networks had been tracking unusual gravitational anomalies at the edge of the galaxy for months. Something vast was moving in the empty space between galactic arms. Something that seemed to devour light itself. In the Academy's main conference room, Sarah sat across from a panel of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. She looked small and young compared to the massive alien dignitaries, but the technology around her hummed with barely contained energy. Miss Chen, High Counselor, Vex Khani began carefully. Our scientists tell us you have somehow activated genetic sequences that should not exist in human DNA. Can you explain this? I can show you, Sarah said simply. She placed her hand on the conference table, and suddenly the room filled with holographic images drawn directly from genetic memory. The assembled leaders watched in awe as the history of the Titans played out before them. They saw the original Titan civilization at its height, beings who could reshape matter with thought, who built megastructures that spanned solar systems, who had unlocked the deepest secrets of reality itself. They saw the enemy arrive, things from the dark between galaxies that fed on organized matter and energy, creatures that turned entire civilizations into nothing but scattered atoms, and they saw the desperate plan. The Titans scattering their genetic legacy across thousands of worlds, encoding their knowledge and power into dormant DNA sequences that would activate only when the enemy returned. Humans are not just another species, Sarah explained as the images faded. We are living memory banks, sleeping weapons, and the enemy that destroyed our predecessors is coming back. Import. High Counselor Vexus Khani looked around the room at his fellow leaders. Fear was written clearly on every face, regardless of species. How long do we have? He asked. Sarah closed her eyes and accessed databases that had been sealed for eons. The deep space monitors detect the Vanguard ships 3 months ago. The main fleet will reach the galactic rim in 18 standard months. What do you need from us? Access to the Titan installations on Earth and the other human worlds. Permission to wake up the rest of my people. And trust that we will not become the very thing our ancestors fought against. The leaders exchanged glances. They were being asked to allow humanity to claim their birthright as heirs to the most powerful civilization in known history. It was either salvation or the end of the current galactic order. There is something else, Sarah added quietly. The awakening process is not gentle. When humans fully remember what they are, some of them might not want to go back to being ordinary people. You need to be prepared for that possibility. Director Vashte leaned forward. Are you saying humans might try to take over the galaxy? I am saying, Sarah replied, her eyes flashing with ancient wisdom. That power has a way of corrupting even the best intentions. But right now, the choice is simple. Trust us to become what we were meant to be, or watch everything you have built get consumed by the darkness between the stars. In the silence that followed, everyone in the room understood that they were witnessing the end of one age and the beginning of another. Humanity was about to claim its true heritage, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, every inhabited world knew the truth about humanity. They were not the young, primitive species everyone had assumed. They were the sleeping children of the Titans, and they were waking up. On Earth, massive structures rose from beneath the ice caps of Antarctica. Crystalline towers that had waited millions of years suddenly activated, their surfaces crackling with energy that made nearby electronics malfunction. Similar awakenings happened on Mars, Europa, and every world where humans had built colonies. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Horizon, watching her instruments go wild as they approached the Antarctic complex. She had been a starship captain for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. "The energy readings are impossible," her science officer reported. "That structure is generating more power than our entire fleet. And it is calling to us," Maria added quietly. She could feel something pulling at her mind, like a voice she had forgotten but always known. "Set us down at the primary landing site." As teams of humans and alien observers approached the main entrance, the massive doors opened without any visible mechanism. Inside, corridors stretched into the distance, lit by panels that responded to human presence. The architecture was beautiful and terrifying, built on a scale that made everyone feel small. Dr. James Wright led the exploration team deeper into the complex. As Earth's top xenoarchaeologist, he had studied Titan ruins before. But these were different. These were intact, waiting. "The symbols are changing," he called out to his team. "They are reacting to us being here." Along the walls, flowing script wrote itself in languages that no human had ever learned, but somehow everyone could read. The messages were warnings, instructions, and promises all mixed together. "Welcome home, children of the void." Dr. Wright read aloud. "The time of sleeping is ending. The darkness returns, and you must choose what you will become." At the center of the complex, they found a chamber that defied physics. It was larger inside than outside, filled with floating crystals that pulsed with inner light. In the middle stood a pillar of pure energy that hurt to look at directly. "Do not touch anything," Maria ordered. But even as she spoke, she could feel the pull getting stronger. Back at the academy, Sarah sat in a special chamber designed to contain the increasing energy field around her. She was connected to monitoring equipment, but the readings no longer made sense to anyone except her. "How many have awakened so far?" Director Vashte asked Dr. Okafor. 17 confirmed cases on Earth, 8 on Mars, 3 on the outer colonies." Remy looked exhausted. "But Sarah says, those are just the early ones. The real awakening comes when they reach the source chambers. What happens then? They become what they were always meant to be. Whether that is humanity's salvation or the galaxy's doom depends on choices that have not been made yet." On the observation deck, representatives from dozens of worlds watched Sarah through protective barriers. Some whispered about preemptive strikes against human worlds. Others argued for immediate alliance. Fear and opportunity mixed in equal measure. High Counselor Vex Khani received a priority transmission that made his blood run cold. "The Zalarian deep space monitors have detected movement. The enemy vanguard has accelerated. They will reach the outer rim in 8 months, not 18. The political situation grew more desperate by the hour. The Corvan military began mobilizing their fleets for what they called protective deployment around human systems. The Vaxian Empire offered technology exchanges that sounded more like demands for submission. Smaller worlds simply evacuated their populations to the galactic core. But the most dangerous development was happening among humans themselves. In the Antarctic complex, Dr. Wright had made a discovery that changed everything. The central chamber contained records of the last Titan War, including detailed information about the enemy they faced. "They call themselves the Devourers," he reported to Earth Command. "They exist in the quantum foam between realities. They feed on organized matter and energy, converting entire civilizations into raw material for their expansion." "How do we fight something like that?" General Harrison asked. According to this, Wright gestured to the flowing displays around him. "The Titans tried conventional warfare first. It failed. The Devourers adapt to any weapon, absorb any energy attack. The only thing that worked was reality manipulation on a fundamental level. Meaning? Changing the rules of physics itself, creating zones where the Devourers could not exist. Wright paused. But using power like that changed the Titans, made them into something that scared them more than their enemies. On Mars, similar discoveries were being made. Colony leader Chen Wei found herself standing in a chamber that showed her possible futures. Some timelines showed humanity ascending to cosmic power and driving back the Devourers. Others showed them becoming conquerors worse than any enemy. The choice is always the same, she whispered to her aide. Become monsters, to fight monsters, or remain human and watch everything die. Back at the academy, Sarah felt every awakening across human space. Each new activation sent waves of information and power through the network. She could see through the eyes of humans standing in Titan chambers on dozens of worlds. She could feel their fear, their wonder, and their growing hunger for the power being offered to them. The temptation is incredible, she told Dr. Okafor during one of their sessions. The chambers show you what you could become. Immortal. Powerful enough to reshape reality with a thought. It would be so easy to just accept it all. But you have not. Not yet. But I can feel others making that choice. And once they do, there is no going back. The first full transformation happened on Europa. Mining supervisor Robert Kim entered a Titan chamber to investigate energy readings and emerged 6 hours later as something that was no longer entirely human. He could manipulate matter at the molecular level, generate force fields with his mind, and see across multiple dimensions simultaneously. When Earth Command tried to establish communication, Kim's response was terrifying in its casual power. I understand your concerns about the changing situation. Rest assured that humanity's transition to its proper role will proceed according to optimal parameters. He no longer sounded human. He sounded like what humans might become if they chose power over their essential nature. The galaxy held its breath as more transformations occurred. Some humans emerged from the chambers with incredible abilities, but retained their humanity. Others became something cold and distant, treating their former lives as insignificant memories. And in the deep space between galaxies, ancient sensors detected the awakening energy signatures. The Devourers altered course, accelerating toward the source of the transmissions. They remembered the Titans. They had been waiting for their children to wake up. The final war for the galaxy was about to begin, and no one knew which side humanity would be on when it arrived. High Counselor Vex Caney called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The topic was simple but terrifying. What do you do when your potential saviors might be worse than the enemy they are meant to fight? We are caught between the darkness and the light, he told the assembled leaders, and we may discover that both want to consume us. Sarah stood in the heart of the Antarctic complex, her hand hovering inches from the central control matrix. Around her, thousands of humans who had made the pilgrimage to the awakening sites waited for her decision. Some had already transformed into beings of incredible power. Others remained stubbornly human, despite the temptation. The crystalline pillar pulsed with energy that contained the compressed knowledge of an entire civilization. One touch would unlock humanity's full Titan heritage. Another touch would activate similar matrices on every human world, transforming the entire species into cosmic entities capable of fighting the Devourers on equal terms. But Sarah had learned the price of such power. Through the quantum network connecting all Titan sites, she could see Robert Kim on Europa. He floated in the vacuum of space, reshaping the moon's surface with casual thoughts. When a supply ship approached too quickly, he simply made it stop existing rather than be annoyed by its presence. The crew died without him noticing or caring. The transformed ones are losing their humanity, she said to Dr. Okafor, who stood with the human delegation. They remember being human, but they no longer feel human. It is like watching people become living equations. Then we refuse the power, Dr. Okafor replied. There is no other way, Robert Kim's voice echoed through the chamber's speakers. He had connected himself to the network and was monitoring their conversation from across the solar system. The Devourers arrive in 3 months. Conventional weapons cannot stop them. Only full ascension will give us the power needed for survival. 2000. Other transformed humans added their voices to his argument. They spoke of efficiency and necessity, of the greater good that required personal sacrifice, but their words carried no warmth, no trace of the people they had once been. Sarah closed her eyes and accessed the deepest memories stored in the Matrix. She saw the final days of the original Titan civilization. The desperate war against the Devourers had indeed driven them to transform themselves into beings of pure power. They had won the war, RPO, but in doing so, they had lost everything that made victory meaningful. The old Titans faced the same choice, she announced to everyone listening. They chose power and became something that could defeat any enemy. But they also became something that could not remember why victory mattered. The transformed humans responded with logical arguments about survival and evolution, but Sarah could hear the growing discord in the network. Some awakened humans were beginning to question whether this was the only path forward. On Earth's surface, General Harrison received the latest intelligence reports. The Devourer advance fleet had been detected at the Galactic Rim, massive entities that existed partially outside normal space-time, consuming entire star systems to fuel their journey inward. Our best weapons might slow them down for a few hours, his chief science advisor reported. Maybe days if we are very lucky. But conventional warfare is hopeless. What about the awakened humans? The transformed ones could probably stop the advance fleet. But they have made it clear that they view the current galactic civilization as inefficient and disposable. Saving us from the Devourers might just mean replacing one form of extinction with another. In the Antarctic chamber, Sarah felt the weight of an impossible decision. Save humanity's soul and watch the galaxy burn. Or sacrifice what made them human to become powerful enough to protect everything they cared about. Then she found a third option hidden in the deepest archives. The Titans left more than just memories, she announced. Her voice carried through the network to every awakening sight. They left a choice we have not considered. The Matrix showed her images of the final Titan plan. Not just full transformation, but a selective awakening. Choose a few to become cosmic entities, while the majority remained human. Create protectors instead of replacing an entire species. Some of us accept the full power and the isolation that comes with it, Sarah explained. We become the guardians who stand between humanity and its enemies. But we do not force that choice on everyone. We remain connected to our human family to remember why the power exists. Robert Kim's response was immediate. Inefficient. Partial transformation leaves vulnerabilities. Yes, it does, Sarah agreed. But those vulnerabilities are also our strength. They keep us human enough to care about what we are protecting. The debate that followed split the awakened humans into 3 factions. The full transformers wanted to ascend entirely, believing only maximum power could guarantee survival. The purists wanted to reject the Titan heritage completely and face the Devourers as unenhanced humans. Sarah's middle path attracted those who wanted to keep their humanity while accepting the responsibility that came with power. As they argued, long-range sensors detected something that changed everything. The Devourer advance fleet had encountered a small research station on the Galactic Rim. Within minutes, an entire solar system simply ceased to exist, consumed so completely that even the records of its existence were being erased from nearby databases. 30 billion people, Dr. Okafor whispered as the reports came in. Gone like they never existed. The magnitude of the threat silenced the philosophical debate. Whatever choice humanity made, it had to be made now. Sarah placed her hand on the central matrix. Power flooded through her unlike anything she had ever imagined. She could feel reality becoming malleable, responsive to her will. The temptation to embrace it fully, to become a being of pure cosmic energy, was overwhelming. But she held on to her human memories. Her love for her family, her friendship with her academy teammates, The way sunset looked from her childhood home, all the small, precious things that made existence meaningful. When the transformation completed, Sarah was no longer entirely human. She could manipulate matter and energy, see across dimensions, and process information at quantum speeds. But she was still herself. Still, someone who cared about protecting others rather than simply winning. Across human space, others made similar choices. Not all humans awakened. Not all who awakened transformed fully. But enough chose the guardian path to create a network of protectors who remembered why protection mattered. When the Devourer main fleet arrived 6 weeks later, they found something they had never encountered before. Tangent-level entities who fought not for dominance or evolution, but for love. Cosmic beings who drew their power not from disconnected superiority, but from connection to the people and places they defended. The war was brutal and desperate. Entire sectors of space became battlegrounds, where the laws of physics were constantly rewritten. But humanity's guardians fought with a focus and determination that even the original Titans had lacked. They won not because they were more powerful than their enemies, but because they remembered what they were fighting for. In the aftermath, Sarah stood before the Galactic Council as humanity's first ambassador. The weapon that had started everything rested at her side, no longer a tool of war but a symbol of the choice between power and responsibility. Humanity accepts its role as guardians of the galaxy, she announced. We will protect all species from threats they cannot face alone. But we will not rule. We will not impose our will on others. We choose to remain servants of peace rather than masters of power. The council delegates looked at her with mixtures of gratitude, relief, and lingering fear. They had been saved, but they also understood that humanity now possessed power that could reshape reality itself. And if your people change their minds? High Counselor Vexcani asked carefully. Sarah smiled. And for a moment, she looked like nothing more than a young woman who had chosen to carry an impossible burden. Then you remind us who we used to be, she said, and hope that we remember why that matters. In the years that followed, humanity took its place as the galaxy's protectors. Not as conquerors or overlords, but as guardians who had chosen responsibility over power, connection over isolation. They faced other threats from beyond the galactic rim, stood watch against cosmic dangers, and slowly helped build a civilization where all species could flourish. Some humans still chose full transformation when the galaxy needed greater power to face specific threats. Others remained completely unenhanced, serving as anchors to keep the guardians connected to their humanity. Most found a balance between power and purpose. The weapon that had revealed Sarah's true nature was eventually retired to a place of honor in the Academy Museum. Beside it stood a simple plaque with words that captured humanity's new creed. Power without love is destruction. Love without power is helplessness. We choose both, and accept the burden that comes with the choice. Sarah often visited the Academy, now serving as both ambassador and teacher. She would stand before new classes of cadets from dozens of species and remind them that strength without wisdom was worthless. That power without compassion was corruption. And sometimes, late at night, she would stand at her old training ground and remember the moment when a simple choice to help a friend had changed the fate of the galaxy. It reminded her that the most important decisions were often the ones that seemed smallest at the time. Humanity had claimed its cosmic inheritance, but they had chosen to remain human enough to deserve it.